I'm pretty sure all of you must be familiar with the 7-38-55 rule of communication. Wait a second, let me add that up. 7-38-55. Yeah, 38 plus 55 is 93 plus 7. All of you communication skills junkies out there who want to improve their public speaking skills, who've been watching all our videos, we thank you very much, first of all. But I'm pretty sure you have heard of this rule. Type in a yes in the comments if you've heard about Mehrabian's 7-38-55 rule, which most of you must be familiar with, means that 7%, words are 7% of the entire message that is sent from one person to another. 38% is voice tonality, everything to do with voice, not just voice tonality, it's how you say it. A huge 55% is the visual, nonverbal communication, right? So guess what? The number one video on our channel, how to improve your communication skills. The number two most popular video on our channel, how to improve the sound of your voice. And I'm pretty sure you will all make this the third most popular video on our channel, is how to master non-verbal communication, because we have one of the globe's leading authorities on the subject with us today, right? Let me read out her introduction before we welcome her in. She's Linda Clemons, and I'm pretty sure if you browse through videos of Mind Valley, you must have seen one of her videos. Linda Clemons from Indianapolis, Indiana, is the CEO of Sisterpreneur Inc, and her client list, ladies and gentlemen, includes celebrities, executives, politicians, and entrepreneurs. She's an award-winning, record-setting sales producer as well as one of the top sales trainers in the world in the resort timeshare industry. She's a trained body language and nonverbal communication expert. And this is where I want to feel like switching my camera off, because we all, when we feel that somebody has the ability to see through and not just hear what we're saying, but also see everything else, we just want to ensure we're putting our absolute best. And she provides the sales and leadership teams with an awareness of how body language can improve performance outcomes. Linda is a charismatic speaker. I've personally enjoyed watching a lot of her presentations on YouTube. I'm sure you will too. I love the energy, the engagement, and the authenticity she brings to the stage. She's also known as the queen of networking, not the one with the wires, the good old-fashioned networking where people meet each other in person. I highly recommend you visit lindaclemonsebooks.com to check out her ebook on the power of body language. And she's also created a powerful masterclass there, which I'm sure would add tremendous value. Links will be in the description. So without much further ado, please join me in welcoming Miss Linda Clemons from Indianapolis today.
Hello, Simerjeet. Hello, how are you?
It's a pleasure.
But not boiling. I love it. I'm excited to be here. You know, normally I'm coming on dancing all the time wherever I go. I've got the music in my head. I'm just dancing, because my grandmother used to say, any day above ground is a good day. So again, Thank you so much for having me, and hello to your audience. I'm looking forward to sharing with you.
Well, thank you. And, it's such a pleasure having you here, for you to share your expertise with us on this subject, on this very important subject of nonverbal communication, which a lot of us sadly believe, perhaps, that I'm personally a huge believer in the power of nonverbal communication. But I also know there's a lot of people out there sitting on their workstations in their pajamas, just wearing a jacket on for the Zoom camera like me and wearing shorts underneath. No. I'm not wearing shorts underneath. But there's a lot of people out there who might question, is this even relevant anymore? Because all my networking happens on LinkedIn, and all the communication I do happens on the cameras. Is this an outdated skill from a different era? So let's begin with the importance of nonverbal. Thank you.
Well, the importance of nonverbal communication, and thank you so much for quoting the statistics from Dr. Mehrabian. That was a study that was done well over 50 years ago. And of course, different behavior experts and body language experts, they have a tendency to want to challenge that, because we have evolved over time. I even have Dr. Mehrabian's voice still on my voicemail when I had a chance to reach out to him. So it's still important. Let me tell you why it's important. Nonverbal communication is our first language. Think about it. As little babies, we could not form words. We made sounds. So you heard the tone. We made sounds. When we were hungry, we cried. When we wanted our diapers changed, we cried. Someone to pick us up, to love us, to feed us. It was our first language. Even goes all the way back, well over 2,000 years. It's primitive. And we would someone, and of course, we would look at them and analyze them. So your nonverbal is critical. What's built to you, it's part of your limbic system. Think about it, Simerjeet. There are people that we know, we meet, we encounter, be it in business or we meet for the very first time, and we get this feeling, not just in the pit of our stomach, if you will, because there's brain there, heart tissue there. We get this pit in our stomach because there is something that is signaling us that something's not right, and automatically our brain is thinking, is this person friend, foe? Are they friend or foe? It is critical. So it's remember this, everyone, our silent language was our first language.
Wow, that's powerful indeed. And we overlook it, once we think we become educated once we learn the words, and then we confuse that by overlooking what's in our limbic system, that primal urge to figure out very, very quickly, friend or foe, friend or foe. And I can sense a friend here, a very dear friend here, vibrationally, all the way from Indiana. Thank you. And you know what? I got this interesting question sometime back in the YouTube comments, said, because you mentioned friend or foe, and I want to decode it very, very quickly. This gentleman said, I don't know why I'm a nice person, but people misinterpret me all the time, right? I don't know. It's how I say things. It's how I carry myself. I have good intentions, but I'm misunderstood at all times. I don't have a lot of friends at work, and I'm pretty sure a lot of our listeners and viewers can relate to that today. Have you come across that? Any tips for people who feel stuck in that situation?
Well, first of all, it's always important to remember it takes anywhere from 4 to 8 seconds to make that great first impression. One of the things that people don't tell us is this: what happens after that 4 to 7 or 8 seconds is the brain is trying to analyze if you are the authentic person that you're showing up to be. So it's so important for you to be, and use this word tap. T as in Tom, A as in Apple, P as in Paul. Well, I like tap dancing. Think about that. To show across truthful, be truthful into who you are. Think it's where Sir Walter Scott or someone said, to thine own self be true, part of Shakespeare, I don't know, to thine own self. So when you are your truthful self, it shows up authentically. When you're your truthful self, it shows up authentically. And then when it shows up authentically, then it shows up in the proof. So truthful, authentic, it shows up in the proof. Now, when whatever you're feeling or thinking about, whenever it's on your mind, it shows up in the matter. Whatever's on the mind, it's up in the matter. So whatever you think about, I've got a little soundbite for you. Whatever you think about, you'll be about. So if you're thinking about it's gonna be a bad day, what do you think your shoulders look like? What do you think your facial expressions? We've got 43 facial muscles. We use 37 of them to make at least 27 different expressions. I believe as a woman, I could probably make 10,000 more, just like Jim Carrey. Practice whatever you think about. So I believe it was Stephen Covey that said, Simerjeet, that keep the main thing, which is the main thing, or maybe this, watch this. Begin with the end in mind. That's a famous cover. Begin with the end in mind. So how do you want the person to show up? The first one was by Anthony Robbins. Keep the main thing, which is the main thing. But how do you want the person to feel when they leave your presence? So that's the mindset that you get in. If you want them to be good, open, and comfortable, then you should approach them. What if I approach you and saying hello to your audience just like this, and I'm closing off a power zone? So it's important how we show up.
That's a great tip right there, to become a little bit more conscious, more aware, more sensitive to the end in mind, as you mentioned. What is the impact you want to leave? How do you want to change the energy of that dynamic of that conversation or that room? I personally found, Linda, that visualization helps me a lot. So I would before I have to go to a huge conference, let's say I speak for a living at conferences, I also attend conferences to be on the other side so I can see what's going on, what are the latest trends, listen to other speakers, etc. And I would want to network, when I have the 1,000 people in the room, I would want to make sure the next 3 days I have at least 500 business cards, or, I've said hello to X number of people during that time. And what I feel has helped me in the past is just to visualize and see myself doing that at ease. And I suddenly discovered it's become a lot more easier. Any thoughts on that, on the power of visualization and improving your self-image?
Well, the power of visualization is so critical. For everyone that's watching this program right now, if you look around your room, if you go outside, if you get into your car, if you're going to work, for every light bulb, every television, every technical gadget that we have, it was a thought that was visualized in someone's mind.
Right.
Everything was a thought, a seed that was birthed in the mind. So I have something for you all to remember. See, understand that your subconscious mind really doesn't know the difference between falsehood or reality. So when you begin to speak something and think something, then the brain begins to act up on it as if it is. My grandmother used to say, act the way you want to be, and soon you'll be the way you act.
Right.
So
Love that.
And I want you to remember, if you can see it in your mind, and everyone close your eyes, if you can see it in your mind, open your eyes now, you can have it in your hand.
Wow.
If you could see it in your mind, I visualize this. I visualize this home. I visualize my family. I visualize this. So if you can see it right there, you can have it in your hand. But the key between the mind and the hand is the activation and the action of putting whatever the vision and the dream and making it a reality.
I love that. I love what you said there about if you can see it in your mind, you can hold it in your hand, and that you can use this for everything, not just improving your communication skills, you just play with this information. It's worked wonders for me. Linda, my next question was going to be around, I read in your bio that you have shared the stage and or opened the stage for notables such as Oprah Winfrey, President Barack Obama, Steve Wozniak, the co-founder of Apple, Dr. Condoleezza Rice, etc. And tell us about the language of the body language of leaders that you might have interacted with. What did you feel stood out, and what can we learn from it?
So here's the thing. I do a workshop for my corporate clients. Majority of my work is in corporate America. And I do a workshop titled The Silent Language of Leaders. And let me tell you why that's important. And for everyone out there that's listening, you are a leader within your community. You are a leader within your company. You are a leader if you are a firstborn child. You perhaps a leader in your family. People quite often will not do what we say. They will do what they observe us doing. Right. Children say to a child all the time, don't do this, don't do that, don't drink, don't smoke, don't whatever. And the first thing a child may say to you, if they dare, and say, Mommy and Daddy, I saw you do it. Even though you gave the word 7%, you gave the message 7%, don't do this. So the action speaks louder than the words. And what I see when I look at leaders, I'm not just listening to the words, I'm making sure that their words are congruent. So when I speak about body language, I want to give your audience some C's here. I'm gonna give you 3 C's. Really,
we love C's.
There's a bonus C. I'm gonna give you 3 C's to start. Before I do that, body language is very important, that you know a person's norm so that you can build rapport. What is their baseline? So when I use the word norming, what is their baseline? It's who they are. It's their norm. So that if every morning I come in and I fix coffee or I play music or I'm dancing, and let's say we're working together and I hear the music. Here comes Linda. She's coming in dancing. So I do that on a Monday. I do that on a Tuesday. I come in just like dancing to Beyonce on a Wednesday. But then Thursday, wow, what's up? She's not dancing. Friday comes around. What's up? So then you're going to say, someone needs to chat with Linda. We want to make sure if everything's okay. Right. Then you have a conversation with me and I'm saying, just going through this acquisition or whatever. But you realize I was off a baseline, which sends you a signal. So it's very critical that you know a person's baseline, their norm. We
Right.
build the rapport. You know, when your loved one, you pick up the phone and you call someone and you say, how you doing? And they go, I'm doing fine. No, you're not, because you can
Yeah.
tell by their vocal tone. So knowing their baseline. So let's start with that baseline. First C is reading nonverbals in clusters. So we're having a great time here, you and I. But what if I entered into your space and to your wonderful audience after that wonderful introduction with my arms folded? Wow. Okay. Well, it could mean several things. Number one, I'm closed off. It doesn't mean I may be a closed off person, but it's your perception of that, because I'm closing the door to my heart, which is a power zone. So my arms are folded, and then someone is saying, well, that doesn't seem to be a very friendly rapport building speaker. And then you decide to turn off the screen, right? Turn it off. But here's what you may miss. I'm doing Simerjeet doing this. And then my assistant brings me a jacket. Oh my gosh. Yes, the other two movements.
Right.
And only judged me on the first net.
Right.
Reading nonverbals in clusters. And I teach all of my master students to watch for more than 7 movements that build up on each movement. So in other words, if you say to me, Linda, do you want to go and have dinner at XYZ restaurant? And I go, I guess that'll be fine. Well, I don't know if I want to go or not. Look at this. I'm walking away from it. So you see if the movements begin to complement the words. So the first thing is clusters, reading for more than one movement. The second C is congruency. Congruency, making sure that my words, your words, the tone, and your nonverbal all agree. What does that mean? If all 3 don't agree, then there's a disconnect in the message between you and me.
Agreed.
So that I say, I love you. I love you. Yes, I do. I really love you. Yeah, I love you. I think we can make this marriage work. Look, watch my shoulders. Yeah, we can make this marriage work. The moment I say yes, can we make the marriage work? Yeah, I think we can. The shoulder shrug cancels out the verbal. You're looking for congruency.
Sure.
And the last C is context. You know, say where you are. I don't know what the temperature is. So where I am, let's say, you know, we're of course where I'm, we're in the winter months, right? But let's say it's on a hot summer day, just scorching hot. You're dripping in sweat. And then you're having a meeting with me and I show up in winter gear, winter clothing. That's out of context. You know, if someone says to you, hey, I want to learn to fly a plane, but I don't want to learn to land it. Ooh, that's out of context. So watching and making sure that what's happening is in the right context that are critical. And of course, the bonus C is culture. You know, you've got the head wobble, you've got the head nod, you've got the head dip. In Asian cultures, rather than looking direct eye contact, they look at the suprasternal notch. So when we're doing diversity work or traveling globally, we want to be able to fit in and not always stand out.
Right. That makes sense. And those are very helpful C's. We love C's, by the way. I have a lot, you know, I don't know, for some reason, for all important things, they start with a C and we can have 4 C's, 7 C's, but very helpful there. Guys, I want you to type it in, please. Clusters, context, congruence, culture. Right? That's very important stuff right there. Clusters, look for body language signals in clusters, not just in isolation. You could jump to wrong conclusions. Know the context of in what context the entire conversation is happening or the setting of it. Congruency. And I think if we are authentic, correct me if I'm wrong, if we are coming from a place of authenticity, this congruency will happen naturally, right, Linda?
Absolutely. When you are authentic, it is like flowing like the river. You know, everything is like a symphony. It's all blending together because the brain is on one accord, if you will, and it's sending signals and the movements to complement what it is that you're saying. Absolutely.
And you did mention.
see great actors, method actors. If the movement was not there, we wouldn't believe them, and they probably wouldn't win in those Oscars.
They evoke those very emotions. No, thank you for mentioning that. And you mentioned culture as well. And let me tell you, a significant percentage of the people who are tuning into this conversation would be from the Indian subcontinent, and we have a culture where people do not open up until they really know you well, right? So in the first meeting, people would not be very expressive about what they think about you or the business deal or whatever it happens to be. And in that case, what really happens, we talked about the authenticity. I've seen many authentic people who lack the expressiveness, who hold it back, and then they risk putting themselves in a position of being misread, right? And which happens because they're not giving out any signals. And I think if we connect this back to what you said earlier, the human face is capable of so many different expressions. Even Sophia the robot, ladies and gentlemen, is capable of many different facial expressions. So I think it comes to flexing those muscles so that you're exhibiting a little bit of what's going on in your mind, unless you're playing poker. Your thoughts on that, Linda? How can people become more expressive?
Well, keep in mind, remember that the saying that goes, when in Rome or in India, do as the Romans do, right? So when in Rome, do as the Romans do. If I'm in your part of the world, I want to be able to understand the culture. I want to have a host or sponsor to make sure that I'm having the right protocol. I'm going to do my homework. One of the things that's very important so that I understand. So if I'm taking my culture, if I'm taking my mannerisms and expecting people all over the world to be like that, then there's a problem. However, there is one thing that is consistent around the world, and there are more emotions, but we talk about Ekman's, the 7 emotions. Most people, unless there is brain damage or neurological challenges, people experience fear the same way. People experience surprise the same way, sadness the same way. So knowing that one thread we share in common are the emotions, which is very, very critical. Even someone who may be sight impaired, blind, visual impaired, would also experience fear the same way, even though they may not see it. So understand that baseline there. So let's say that I'm in a culture or in a country, in a part of the world where they have to warm up to you simply from the body language. One of the things that I would do, I would not just run into their space. Proxemics is very important. Keeping that safe distance, not just for a pandemic, but keeping that safe distance to honor that space. In Asian cultures, where the salutation, where they bow, you have to honor that space. So keeping that safe distance and allowing you, the person who I'm wanting to connect with, to set the tone so that I can build rapport. So let me give you a good example. I speak rather fast, even though, and people say to me all the time, you're from the Midwest. I thought you were from the East Coast, from New York, someplace, because that's how they label people for speaking from the East Coast, West Coast, laid back, and people from the South, perhaps a little slower. So here's what I would do. If you are speaking slower pace, a lower register, I will begin to match that because it's very important so that I can begin to establish rapport with you, because I'm trying to connect with you so that you are comfortable. Once you are comfortable, then you begin to open up and we begin to establish that connection. And that's very critical.
That's important. And you refreshed my memory with this NLP course that I did about establishing rapport. And that was very, very valuable. And I had an experience recently where this very well-meaning person wanted to, meet up to exchange information and ideas, but he did not build rapport with me. He was a complete stranger off the internet, just dropped a message. He happened to be in my city. Would you like to meet up? And, didn't disclose the agenda, wasn't transparent. And then during that meeting, zero rapport building, jumping straight into questions which I felt were sort of a personal nature regarding my business and work. And what ended up was I wasn't comfortable. You haven't won my trust yet. How can I reveal about how I work, how I operate, how did I end up in this profession? So many other questions, borderline personal nature. And that just reminded me an utter failure there of putting in some effort of building rapport. And talk about labels.
Can I add to that? What the story you shared is so important, especially for those of you out there who are in sales. And that's everyone. Why am I saying that?
True.
Sales come from the Scandinavian root word selzik, which means to serve.
Okay.
So if you own business, we're communicating, we're serving, we're persuading, we're convincing. So here's what happens. If you are not building that rapport, specifically during the sales process, if you're not building that rapport, that individual is still stuck in their amygdala, in which also known as the reptilian part of the brain. They cannot hear your presentation because they're in the fear, fight, flight part of the brain, which is so critical. So now you're doing your pitch or your presentation. If you haven't built rapport, they are still stuck there because they don't trust you. And wherever you leave them in the presentation, be it the conversation or sales presentation, wherever you leave them is where you lose them.
Wow. I like that. Wherever you leave them is where you lose them. They might not reveal it to you. They might not tell you that you've lost them. They might be polite and hear you out, but you're not grabbing that sales or that information or whatever you came for. That brings me to the very important subject, Linda, of first impressions. And I know, it's important in business meetings. It's important in interviews. First of all, is this whole thing about first impressions overrated? Or from your research and from your work, do you think they matter significantly, first impressions? And if yes, what can the average person listening to this talk right now can do to improve
So think
it?
about this. First impressions are so critical because if we are able to see another person, and studies have shown one of the things that we look at their gender, we look at their skin color, we look at what they're wearing, and then we begin to look at their clothing and their shoes. We begin to look at their body movements, and it's forming a narrative as to the kind of person that we may perceive that person to be. So if they're closed off, if they have great eye contact, no contact, all of this is sending data to the brain as to how we're going to perceive this person. So give you a good example. If you see me and let's say we're out in an area, let's say we're at the mall, you're coming one direction, I'm going another direction, and we make eye contact and you smile at me and I look away. Wow, that's a moment of rejection. What you're looking for me to acknowledge and send the smile back, or at least a head nod. But the moment that you smile and I turn my head, that's a sign of rejection. Immediately, I don't want to be bothered. And guess how that makes you feel when you were simply giving me a greeting and giving me a welcome or just a nice smile, the universal language, a smile. And I did not give that back to you. So that first impression. So now imagine if you walk into the building and we both go into the same building, and then you find out, and I find out that you're my boss.
Right. You don't want to be in that situation, right?
I want to be in that situation. That's my boss. And that's how important those first impressions are.
Right.
And those first impressions can make lasting impressions. When the law of recency and primacy, people have a tendency to actually hold on to those first impressions. And studies have shown they can hold on to them for as long as 20 years.
Right. So therefore, guys, it's loud and clear. Put in that little bit extra effort. Make it a habit. Practice it so you don't have to put on a show, If you're out there walking and you treat the janitor and the president with the same amount of respect and courtesy, it's going to be second nature for you. You don't have to put on an act there. And you never know whose life you're going to touch in what meaningful way. You never know.
Absolutely.
You never know. And that's the beauty of it. I'm mindful of the time here, Linda. I know we only have 5 minutes left. Would you like to take a quick rapid fire I had for you?
Yes, please. All right. I'm ready.
Let's do this. Let's do this. Your top tip to connect with a stranger. Number one tip.
First thing is the smile and great eye contact and eyebrow flash.
Your favorite
eyebrow flash.
Eyebrow flash. All right. Okay. All right. Good. Your favorite business book.
Oh, let's see. The Power of Habit by Charles Duhigg.
Okay, love that. Number one problem that people come to you with.
Oh my gosh, you're going to love this. Listen, I want to tell you this. Traveling all over the world, I've worked with some of the best out there, from government, celebrities, CEOs, working with lawyers on jury selection. But the biggest thing that my friends come to me with, and understand this, I have not purchased groceries in over 15 years, all because, you're going to love this, my friends invite me out every time they have someone new in their life. So the biggest thing that I get all the time, if the person that I'm dating, how do I know if they're into me? How can I tell if they're being deceptive or lying? You know what? I'm so glad you asked that question. I used to do a workshop titled, you're going to love this, Chocolate After Midnight. Chocolate After Midnight is 21 nonverbal moves that you can do to have the person of your desire totally into you. So that was a fun, so that's and believe it or not, of all the challenges, and HR people come to me all the time, and to help with strategies for interviewing. I'm trained in analytical interviewing, which is a nice word for interrogation, if you will. The biggest thing, my friends come to me all the time for advice on dating, and how can you tell if someone is being truthful or authentic, or deception. So it's so fun, and if he or she are they are really into me, that kind of thing.
Oh, that's great. It'll be great to have a friend like you in making one of those most important decisions of one's life, right? And I hope you're writing a book on it.
I've been telling them, but the thing is, here's what we naturally have a tendency to do. When there's something that you want or you desire, your RAS, reticulating activating system, it will, whatever you want to see, that's what you're going to see. You're going to see that.
I was going to ask this. I was going to ask this to you. Do they ever listen? Hey, when they're in love, do they listen?
They do. They do. I have a few that really listen. They come to me. They send me pictures. They send me videos first. They said, Linda, I want you to meet them first. I'm like the big sister godmother, right? But then there are others that, oh, no, I think you're wrong this time. And then maybe a few minutes later, I should have listened.
And you have your "you should have listened to me" moment there. All right. I hope you're putting a book together around this subject to go with Robert Greene's The Laws of Seduction. We should have one from you too. Linda Clemons on these.
I love his book. I love it. As a matter of fact, I do have a wonderful course through Mind Valley, Body Language for Dating. So, you all check that out. You said that'd be great.
Great. I'm sure people in the audience will love that. We'll leave the link for you in the description below. Linda, it's been an absolute pleasure. It's been an absolute pleasure. I love the energy. I love the vibe and the information and the experience that you shared with us. We'll sure love to have you back soon again on this podcast at some stage.
Thank you so much. You are an awesome, great host. Thank you so much.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.